What's your problem? Why bother? Good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. One of the major hurdles I had to really come to terms with when I decided to start getting involved with the new male paradigm was why I was so passionate about it in the first place. Ever since I began contributing at SoSuave and the manosphere in general, I've always tried to make a point of not emphasizing my past sexual and relational experiences to base more global ideas upon. Women's default position is to do just this: personalize the instance to come to a universal conclusion. Not only is it the pinnacle of solipsism to think your experience should define the frame for everyone else, but it myopically ignores that exception usually prove a rule. That was my basis for not wanting to relate too much of my own experiences. People can draw too easy a conclusion from the conditions that molded your point of view. This is actually one of the easiest ways to read a woman, because their experiential sense of self-importance tends to define their reality. I wanted a more pragmatic approach, and this all came at a time for me when I decided to add a second major to my university studies: behavioral psychology, with an emphasis on personality studies. Game, or what would become game, influenced this decision for me. I wanted to know how the TV worked, instead of that it just worked when I turned on the power. All that said, I was still left with the question, why the fuck do you even give a shit whether guys unplug? I unplugged without the support of an internet community of men comparing experiences. Why even bother? I have had what most men would consider a very good marriage for over 15 years now. I have a whip-smart daughter, I make good money, I'm successful at what I do, I'm well-traveled. Why is it so fucking important to make my voice heard? It's when I'm forced to answer questions like this that I have no choice but to apply my own personal experiences to the equation. I'm loath to do so because it's far too easy for critics to mold them into some purpose that serves their perspective. He's bitter, he got burned, this is his catharsis, he's vindictive, etc. However, it's necessary to present these experiences as observations for a better understanding. I won't pretend to be unbiased. No one is. But I do take the pains to be as self-analytical as I can in what I offer. So you want to know what my problem is? My problem is living in a world teeming with young men who become so conditioned to believing that anything remotely masculine is to be ridiculed, vilified, and subdued until they have no concept of what it truly entails, much less pass off even the possibility that it could be something positive and attractive. My problem is when a personal AFC, average frustrated chump, friend swallows a bullet because he literally can't live without the girlfriend who left him. My problem is watching a pastor's pretty wife leave him and 4 children so she can pursue her hypergamy after 18 years of marriage because he pedestalized her and deprecated himself every day of their marriage. My problem is when a 65-year-old lifelong chump cries in my lap about how he's been consistently blackmailed with his wife's intimacy for the past 20 years of their marriage and won't man up for fear of losing her. My problem is talking a close friend out of killing the wife he married too young at 19 and the man she just cheated on him with in the parking lot of the motel he spent all night tracking her down to find, with their 3 children crying in the back seat of their minivan at 4 a.m. My problem is civilly sitting down to Thanksgiving dinner with a hyper-religious sister-in-law and the new millionaire husband she just married 8 months after her former AFC husband of 20 years hung himself from a tree when she decided he wasn't the one for her. My problem is staring at the brand new tits and Porsche she bought herself with the money from the home he built for her that he busted his ass for just 3 months after he was in the ground. My problem is emphatically teaching my 22-year-old nephew how not to be the AFC his father was, while tactfully pointing out the hypergamy of his vulgarly opportunistic mother. My problem is watching my father, though decaying from Alzheimer's, still playing out the savior schema in an effort to get laid that he's thought should work his entire life at 68 years old. My problem is watching him feebly default to a behavior that obsessively motivated him to succeed until he was forced into early retirement at 53, and his second wife left him promptly after that. My problem is consoling a good friend who's fathered 3 daughters with 2 wives and is being emotionally manipulated by his third, another single mommy, by the way, who's become so despondent that he dreads going home from work to deal with his personal situation and waits with anticipation for the weekend to be over. My problem is counseling a guy who thought the best way to separate himself from other guys was to be chivalrous and date a single mommy with 3 children from 2 different fathers, only to knock her up for a 4th kid and marry her because it was the right thing to do. My problem is dealing with a 17-year-old girl who just witnessed her new boyfriend stabbing 30+ times her ex-boyfriend because he believed she was his soulmate and would rather live in jail without her than see her with that guy. My problem is trying to explain to modern women that after 15 years of marriage, my wife could still model swimwear and confidently respects my judgment and decisions as a man. I didn't achieve this by being a domineering 1950s caveman chauvinist who's crushed her spirit, but that it is an understanding and adherence to living a positively masculine role. And my biggest problem is seeing 14-year-old AFC simps all ready to sacrifice themselves wholesale to this pitiful, mass media-fueled, pop culture-endorsed, idealized, and feminized notion of romantic soulmate mythology, all because some other AFCs trapped in the same quicksand they are affirming and co-enabling each other to further their own sinking and spread this disease to other AFCs. It's infectious, and complacency, like misery, loves company. My fear is that I'm only one man, and I can't possibly be enough to kick these guys in the ass like their AFC fathers were unable or unwilling to do. This is why I bother. It really is a matter of life or death sometimes. Understanding game, for lack of a better term. How and why it functions is literally a survival skill. Think about the importance of the decisions we make based on uninquisitive, flimsy, and misdirected presumption we have been conditioned to believe about love, gender, sex, relationships, etc. Think about the life impact that these decisions have, not only on ourselves, but our families, the children that result from them, and every other domino that falls as a repercussion. We rarely stop to think about how our immediate decisions impact people we may not even know at the time we make them. What we do in life literally echoes or ripples into eternity. That's not to go all fortune cookie on you, but it is my reasoning behind my desire to educate, to study, to tear down, and build back up what most would ask, why bother?